The following presentation is brought to you live from Dallas, Texas, for the International Association of Square Dance Callers' 26th Annual Convention. This is tape 28, How to Sell a Workshop.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 26th Annual CALLERLAB Convention here in Dallas, Texas. This session is entitled, How to Sell a Workshop. My name is Kip Garvey from Fremont, California. I'll be your moderator this afternoon. There is a handout available. If you have not received one, you can pick one up in the rear pews. This is a taped session. Our friend Cindy Hawley, stand up Cindy. Cindy has the portable microphone. If anybody would like to make a comment, you not only have to get our attention, you have to get Cindy's attention so that she can bring the microphone over to you. When you get access to the microphone and it's your turn to make a comment, would you please start by stating your name and state or country or province where you reside, and we'll go from there. I didn't think there was a bug that had enough common sense to try to crawl in my body, but I've got this little virus coming in. I'm going to unplug this microphone when I get done. That'll take a second, and then more or less turn the session over to our two extremely capable panelists, whom I'd like to introduce to you right now. To my immediate right, began his calling in 1969. It was full-time since 1976. He's the co-owner and producer of Royal Records. He's called at every major festival and convention in the USA, called extensively all through Europe, Sweden, Germany, Denmark, Holland, Belgium, Austria, the Czech Republic, Australia, Japan, Saudi Arabia. It's safe to say there's darn few places he hasn't called. However, now he is gainfully employed as the owner of Story Construction Company, where he resides with his lovely wife, Christy, Mr. Jerry Story.
Got a real job.
Now, God knows, but I'm safe to say that many of you don't, how much I truly appreciate the work, the energy, the study, the effort that goes into the production of square dancers by the local area caller. Without the local area caller, there just wouldn't be special events and places for Jerry Story to find work.
Right.
Our caller began calling in 1979. He's the Caller Association Liaison Committee Chairperson, past president of the North Texas Callers Association. First met him and his lovely wife, Kayla, who happens to be with us in the back, in Waco in 1978. He records on Blue Star and Global labels, calls regularly for the Graham Promenaders in Graham, Texas, where he both teaches classes and conducts workshops. He's currently employed as the sales representative for AC Supply, which is an air conditioning and supply company, and his territory includes all of North Texas. And he'll be able to give us some insight as to the basic requirements for selling. A warm round of applause, and I'll turn the microphone over to Vernon Jones.
1, 2, 1, 2. Am I coming in okay? Very good. How's everybody doing today? Good. What have y'all thought about the convention so far? It's good. It can be fixed in a good few places. Good. That shows the importance of filling out your critique sheet. That's what it's in there for. So be sure you fill it out and tell them what you liked best and what you didn't like, and so therefore we can plan the conventions around you. When Kip first called me, and we've been corresponding and talking way back yonder, Wednesday of last week, wasn't it? Trying to get this prepared for y'all. He asked me to see if I could present a side as far as what the local caller is based on, what he's got to do and what they've got to do, or she, or, I'm a male chauvinist pig, so I'm going to refer to it as salesman and he. So if I make mistakes, that's life's hard, and I'll apologize for that. But one of the first things you've got to do, as Kip mentioned, is the title of this session is How to Sell a Workshop. And you've got to come to the realization that you are a salesperson. To most of us, that's going to scare us to death, because we don't like salespeople. They're pushy. They call us at night while we're trying to eat dinner or watching the favorite baseball game. And we hang up on them. We say, we don't want this. What happens next week? They call back. So our perception of salespeople is not very good. Now then, I'm not here to belittle or undermine salespeople, because like Kim mentioned, that's what I are. I am a salesperson, so I know of what I'm speaking of. I have people that work with me that tell me their interpretation of my job is to drive around all day and look for a new place to eat. The reason they think that is because they ask me when they're going to North Dallas, I know where all the good places to eat are. So that's what they think salespeople do. They don't know just exactly what we do. There are many different kinds of salespeople. The first thing that the interpretation of people when they think of salespeople is a used car salesman. And we know what kind of bad reputations they have. Not that they are bad, but they just have bad reputations. They're pushy. They're arrogant. They'll probably tell us a whole bunch of untruths to get us to buy what they want us to buy. They want way too much money for it. And when they do get us to buy it, if it breaks down and doesn't live up to the expectations that they told us that it would have, who in the world can we not get a hold of when we want to call and complain? Used car salesman. I've been known to stand out in the parking lot and see a used car salesman coming out and start hollering at them. I don't want you to talk to me. All I want to do is look. We've all done it. They keep coming anyway. We say, look, if I decide on what kind of car I want to buy, I'll come and talk to you. Then if you're lucky, they go away. And they no sooner get up into this building over here than you look over in this building over here, and here comes another one. Then you got to go through that whole mess again. Then you get tired of putting up with that mess, and you tell your wife, well, I got to go home. I'm tired of listening to all this kind of stuff. And on the way home, you realize that your teenage daughter sat on her CD player, and you got to go to Montgomery Ward's and buy one. So you go to Montgomery Ward's, and Montgomery Ward's has got a section in their department store called Electric Avenue. And you go up to Electric Avenue, and you're in there, you're looking at the TVs, and you're looking at the VCRs, and you're looking at the CD players, and you look around, you got some questions you want to ask, and there's nobody around. You look over there, and there's the Montgomery Ward salespeople who relate or who amount to probably no more than high school people who are there working after school. And they can't help you because they're over there, and they got the headsets on their head, and they got the spiked hair, and they're listening to the new CDs that have just come out, and you can't buy them because they still haven't put them on the shelf yet. And you look around over there, and then you walk out of that store, and you go, those people acted like they didn't even want me in there. And you're mad at them for basically doing what you wanted that used car salesman to do. Well, one type of selling that we all do, whether we realize it or not, is we do a type of selling that is called relationship selling. And we all do it in the local home program, whether it be at a workshop, whether it be at a dance, whether it be in a festival type atmosphere. We all start building relationships. And what I mean by building relationships, and especially in the local and home program, is that we know who our customers are. Used car salesman doesn't know who his customer is until they drive up. We know who our customer is. We know their names. We know their wives' names. We know their partner's name. We know if they've had many wives and partners before that. We probably know if they have children. We probably know their children's name. We've probably been out to eat with them. We've probably been over to their house to eat. They've probably been over to our house to eat. We've probably all been out with them in some kind of a social function that probably has nothing to do with square dancing whatsoever. But that's what we all do. We build relationships. A person comes up to me and says, well, that's very easily done, but what if I'm hired to go to California? The first thing you do is you start building relationships. You're picked up at the airport. Do you not talk to the people that pick you up? Sure you do. You're building relationships. When you do a workshop, do you just do a workshop and then sit down? No, you get out and you greet and you meet people and you're building relationships all along what you do. And we all do it. And we've got to come to a realization that even though we're not going out and we're saying, here, I'm going to workshop XYZ, I want you to buy it, we're actually telling people we want you to buy it by becoming their buds, becoming their friends. And that's one of the ways that you can sell your workshops or your dances. If you really want to sell what you're workshopping, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of choreo here, I'm going to leave that up to the choreo master here in just a minute. But if you're going to believe in what you're selling, I mean, if you're going to sell if you're going to, like, I can't even talk. If you're going to sell your product, you've got to believe in it. Because if you don't believe in it, you can't ask the people out there to believe in it. I was involved in a workshop one time, and it was a local workshop. It wasn't a very large one. It was about 20 to 25 squares. There were 2 of us callers that were involved in it. And we each had what we were going to workshop. This particular caller was going to go first. He was to workshop fan the top. He stands up and gets everybody up, and he tells the people, okay, if you read your program right, then you know that I'm going to workshop fan the top, and I really don't like fan the top too well. It's not one of my favorite calls. I don't call it very often. But we're going to go ahead and do it because you need to know how to do it, but don't worry about learning it too well because I'm not going to call it at the dance tonight. Is that what it is, a prayer meeting over there? Well, apparently they've got a lot of people to believe in their product because they're all doing it. Do y'all think he sold fan the top in that workshop? No. Lost it right at the beginning. Why? Why didn't the people buy his product? They didn't like it. Why didn't they like it? Well, he didn't like it. He done told us it wasn't going to be any good. Why in the world am I going to worry about liking it? I don't need to worry about learning it because he already told us he ain't going to call it in the dance tonight, so we'll just go ahead and go through the motions, and then I won't have to worry about it anymore after that. I thought to myself, that's too bad because some of the stuff that he was doing was neat. While it was his turn, I was over there on the side, and I was writing this stuff down. Oh, that's neat. No, that's neat. I'm going to use it during the dance. And I did. Didn't take me very long to learn that I shouldn't have done that. I got everybody up for when it was my tip, and I'm going to say the first thing I didn't tell them. I just thought to my mind, I'm going to do fan the top. I got everybody up. Now we've all been to these type of things. Not everybody that comes to the workshop is at the dance, but most of the people who were at the workshop still were dancing in somewhat of the same squares. I still remember their faces. I don't always remember their names, but I could remember what their faces and what they looked like. And I watched these people, and during the workshop, they were dancing fan the top from some of the places he was doing it, and they were jamming, and they were jiving, and they were getting it, and they didn't have no problem whatsoever. So I thought I'd start out slow. So I set them up in the most standard of positions, which is normal parallel ocean waves with the boys on the ends and the girls in the middle, and proceeded to call fan the top, and there was a stumble. And I thought, oh, what in the world happened? These people were doing it great during the workshop. How come they're not doing it now? So I went around and I did some other stuff, and I put them in parallel ocean waves again and called fan the top, and they got it. And I thought, all right, it's come back to them. Then I set them up in one of the extended application formations that they were doing during the workshop, and I called it, and that was the worst mistake I've ever made in my entire life. The people who were doing it great, had no problem during the workshop, could not do it anymore. Why couldn't they? He told us not to remember it. He unsold that movement. He unsold his workshop by telling the people, don't worry about it, you ain't going to hear it no more. And so they did. They said, whoop, it's gone. Don't have to worry about it anymore. He didn't believe in his product. Therefore, his people didn't believe in it. One of the best examples that I like to use of believing in your product is like Kip mentioned a while ago. I'm a sales rep for an air conditioning supply, and we sell wholesale, and we sell refrigerant. And refrigerant is more commonly referred to as Freon. Everybody knows it by Freon. Freon, there's no such thing as Freon, really. Freon was a manufacturer years ago. They just happened to be one of the first ones, and it's kind of like Hoover, and it's kind of like Cadillac. You know, everybody referred to it as Freon, but it's actually called refrigerant. Well, the refrigerant manufacturer that we bought our refrigerant from didn't have any distributorship in Dallas. We've got a lot of stores in Fort Worth, but no distributorship in Dallas. My boss wanted distributorship in Dallas. He had some money put back, but he didn't have a lot, so he's going to have to borrow some money. He didn't want to have to pay the interest on it. He went to the refrigerant company and said, hey, I need some help. Can you help me? The refrigerant company said, gee, we don't have any distributorship. We'd like to have some in Dallas also. So yes, we'll loan you the money. No, we won't charge you any interest. We think it's a great idea. All you got to do is come to New York, where the refrigerant company was based. We'll sign a few formality papers and get on with it. So my boss did. Went up to New York. Country boy from Texas is going to go to New York and do some business with them New York peoples. He said he went into a boardroom, like we've all seen these boardrooms on the movies, and it's got the paneled walls, and it's wood, and the ceilings, and all this kind of stuff, and they got the great big long wooden table with all this leather high-back chairs, and he said 10 suits and neckties walked into that room. and him. And he said they all had something to say about their portion of this deal, except this one guy down at the very end. And he said this guy down at the very end was sitting down at the very end of the table, and he wore, like, you know, them half glasses that people wear, and they wear them far down on their nose, therefore they can sit at the table and they can look down at the sheets, but if they want to talk to you, all they do is raise their eyes up at you like this. And it turned out that he was the CPA, the accountant for the company. He was the bean counter. He knew where every bean was and what it was doing while it was sitting there. And then it came time to sign all the formality papers, and my boss is signing this paper, and he's signing okay, and he's signing, and he's signing. Then he got to the very end, and it was a personal guarantee. And what a personal guarantee basically is, it says that if the company has problems and can't pay the loan off, then you personally guarantee to pay the loan off. And my boss looked at that and he said, whoa, wait a minute. I mean, what if something happens and I get into financial trouble and I can't pay this loan off? What this is saying is that you're going to come take my house, and you're going to come take my car, and you're going to come take my furniture, and you probably come take my oldest child because I'm still paying on my youngest one. And he said that's when the only time that man down at the end of the table said anything, and he didn't look up, he just raised his eyebrows at him, and he said, Mr. Boyd, my boss's name is Mr. Boyd. He said, Mr. Boyd, if you don't believe in it, don't ask us to believe in it. And if we're going to sell anything, we've got to believe in it. If we don't believe in it, the people will pick up on that, and they won't believe in it. Another thing that you've got to do in order to sell your workshop is you've got to know your product. Dude, that's a mind-boggling concept, isn't it? You've got to know your product. I went to a workshop one time. I was not calling at the time, but I went to a workshop one time, and the caller said, we're going to workshop X, Y, Z, and then proceeded to pull the definitions out and said, let's see what it says about it. And read it. I didn't, and then there actually one point he goes, I didn't know you could do that. It might have been. It's in Waco. No, that's where I met you, wasn't it, kid? Anyway. You got to know your product. Does that mean that you got to know every aspect of it? It means that you should know all that you can of it. But it does not mean that somebody's going to ask you a question that you don't know the answer to. And one of the things, you can go two roads when that happens. One is you can make up a great lie and that person will buy it and you'll think, hey, that was good. What usually happens in that situation is you did so good at making that thing up that you start, it's in the back of your mind, thank you. In the back of your mind's going, hey, that was right. It was right because that guy didn't say it was wrong, so it must have been right. So what happens is you'll start spreading that around, then somebody's going to call your hand on it. And when you do, you're dead. What you need to do is you need to look at that person who asked you the question that you don't know the answer to and say, that's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. I've never thought of that myself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to find out and I'm going to do some checking and I'm going to do some research, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get back to you and we're going to find out what the answer is. And then you've got to follow up on that and get back with that person. If you don't get back with that person, what do they think about you? You didn't care about them. All you did was stand there and say, yeah, I believe, okay, yeah, and as soon as they walked away, you said, oh, I'm so glad they're gone. And you lost them. And what do they do when that happens? They go out and tell 100 people. And all of a sudden you've lost them coming back. You get back with them. You make sure that you do what you said you was going to do. You get back with them. You tell them what the answer is. And the next thing you know, they're not buying your product because you're offering fan the top or you're offering XYZ or flip the widget or ring ding or whatever you want to call it. They're coming to your workshop because that's Jerry's workshop. I go to Jerry's workshop. What's he workshopping? Well, no, Jerry. I mean, it's just like real estate people. Real estate people, when they sell a house, do they expect to sell a house to that same person in a month? Not in most cases. In most cases, they know that they're going to be there for a long time. In many cases. I know some people move and go back and forth, but they don't sell to the same person over and over and over and over again. How many go to the same barbershop? Why do y'all go there? Haircut's cheaper? Nah. Some of them do. You like the barber. Why? He's a good old fella, isn't he? Is it a man? Okay, there's a lot of people. You're a barber? She cuts your hair? Why do you keep going back to her? Because if you don't, she's going to knock the crud out of you? That's what happens. That's called relationship selling. We go there and we talk to our people. And we talk to the barber. Hey, bud, how's it going? You read the newspaper and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, while I'm here, can you cut my hair? We enjoy that, and that's what you've got to do on the local program. You've got to provide variety in your workshops. If you think of the greatest thing and the greatest combination of calls, and you go, all right, that was good. One of the things that comes to mind, Tony Oxendine did a seminar on showmanship, but he also gave a little bit of choreography. And one of the things he did is he said, heads spin the top, sides face, grand square, and by the time the sides made 8 steps, everybody was in a position to do a right and left through. And I thought that was a neat. It times out really well. Yes, you have to workshop it, and yes, you have to spoon feed and step it through, but I thought, well, a really neat idea. And I went back and I learned it, and I learned how to teach it, and I called 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 it, and pretty soon it got to be where I said head spin the top and the sides face would automatically start in grand square. Because if you do something too much, it becomes what? Boring, old hat. Have we ever called a square through and then wondered why the head step into the middle and pat hands and turn to face your corner? I did. I used to look at that and say, why do they do that? Well, I know why they do that, because they know what happened. They're bored with it. You got to provide variety. Don't overkill. I've already stepped on that. If you continue to do it over and over and over again, it becomes old hat. Again, do your research. Look things up. If your hand gets called on something, do more research. Get back with the people that you said you'd get back with. There's one more point that I want to touch on, and it's an experience point. In the world of business, there are people who have been running companies for many, many, many years. One of the biggest things that you hear now is some CEO saying, I've been running this company for 30 years. I've got 30 years experience running this company. But what is usually found is they really don't have 30 years experience. They've probably only got about 10 that they repeated it 2 more times. Dick Mazziotti touched on this very thing in the latest issue of Direction. How many read Dick Mazziotti's article in the latest issue of Direction? Y'all ought to read that thing. There's stuff in there that's good. There's informational stuff in there that you might get a benefit out of. But Dick Mazziotti referred to it in his article as square dance callers often boast that I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years calling experience, when in reality, we've probably only got 1 year's experience. We found out what worked for us, and we repeated it 19 times. What you've got to do in order to sell your workshop, sell your dances, keep your dances from being boring, is continue to motivate yourself to not continue to do the same things all the time. Look outside the lines. Go the extra mile and do an old-fashioned thing, an amazing concept, which is do your homework and try to educate yourself. I appreciate your time this afternoon. I hope you enjoy the rest of the convention. Thank you.
All right. We're going to talk about selling a workshop today, but we're going to keep it with the basic and mainstream calls. And primarily the reason why that is because that's what I do. And that's all I know to talk about. I'm not a big advocate of experimental calls or using calls from higher level programs. I want to work within the framework of the programs. Even if it's a plus workshop, I still workshop basic calls and mainstream calls. If it's an advanced workshop, guess what I work? Basic and mainstream calls. If it's a challenge workshop, guess what I work? Basic and mainstream calls. I've been successful for many, many years doing that. So, and I hope I don't bore you with it. I think sometimes some people come in looking for some fancy thing to workshop, and although I think there's a place for that, new calls, there surely is, and experimental calls, maybe. I don't know. I choose not to use them, but I did a long time ago, 20 years, used them, but we got our eyes opened up when we went to Europe about 17 years ago and seen what they were doing with the basic list and the mainstream list, and was in awe of that fact. And ever since, I guess, is when I changed, and I've noticed a lot of my friends and peers have changed as the times have went on, and I see all of them that are very successful running those same type workshops. But I want to just give you some observations first, and then we'll have time at the end to go through some choreography, and we'll show you how to present a lot of the basic mainstream material that might be uncomfortable for you at first, or maybe you haven't thought about it, or a certain way to present it, because if the dancers don't dance it, it's no fun. But just a few observations first, and then we'll get into that. Times have changed, and dancers have changed. Many callers have not changed. Dancers have caught on to the old trick of teaching or workshopping experimental calls or calls from higher level programs. Many dancers feel calls like this are a waste of time because most will never see or hear these calls again. Though calls like this can be fun and entertaining, times have changed. Dancers realize they need work on many calls they already know or in many cases are supposed to know. They are also eager to learn if the material is presented in a fun and professional way. Here's where the problem really begins. It's much easier for callers to take an experimental call or a call from a higher level program and present it plain vanilla, standard application, for a workshop than it is to work on their craft and their presentation skills and present a basic or a mainstream call from a few various ways. Times have changed. Dancers expect more from each of us as callers than they ever have before. Dancers really do want to be more competent at the level they are dancing. To date, and as a whole, from my observation, we are not providing this service for our clients. Now, that's on a nationwide, as what I see. I know in certain areas you disagree with me. Well, by golly, we're doing it here. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying from my observation over the years, across this nation, we are not, as a whole, providing that service for our clients. Some top pros in this business and some area and local callers have already figured this out, and for the past decade and a half have been ultra successful presenting basic mainstream choreography in a fun and entertaining way at every level. The dancers go nuts, and the bottom line is they're having fun, and at the same time they feel they really learned something. And besides that, once you use this basic and mainstream choreography, that is tools that you can use the rest of the night or the workshop, or if it's a festival, you workshop in the afternoon, you call it night, you can use it that night. You can use it at your club. It's not like flip your widget where you only teach it from one way, and after you flip that sucker a dozen times, it's boring. Where there's no place to go. There's really no big reward to flipping your widget, other than it equalizes the floor for the time being. But you really didn't teach the dancers anything. There was not a whole lot of reward value there. It was a little bit of entertainment for the dancers, but the reward of and having the tools to work with several different basics or mainstream calls that you may have showed them, then you can intertwine those calls in and out of your choreography all night long and get them dancing clockwise and counterclockwise and spin them around over here and take them over this way, and it creates a whole new dancing experience that a lot of dancers have never had in their life in this country. It's not necessarily the learning part the dancers enjoy. A lot of times it's the fact that they are dancing it's a big word, all the basic mainstream calls from various ways and really dancing them smoothly. This is an enjoyable feeling for many dancers. Many have never experienced this and may have been dancing several years. Slowly but surely, dancers are becoming aware that just learning more calls from standard application only does not mean they're a comfortable or confident dancer. Dancers are learning. They're getting smart, because we don't have a lot of new people coming in right now. So that means we're just keep entertaining them same people over and over again. They're getting smart. They're catching on really fast. Dancers are beginning to realize that they're being fooled into thinking they're something they're not. Soft advanced. You heard that yet? Well, it happened to Plus, didn't it? Because of standard application. Not demanding excellence within a level. It happened. It took us from mainstream, sucked them all out of there, took them to Plus. Same thing's happening now. They're even wanting to get a resolution to write the extended application or the standard applications advanced booklet. Does that make any sense to anybody? I've heard this ripple through the convention. Makes no sense to me, but we have a faction that believe that. So maybe there's some in here, and if there is, you can argue that point. Not in this session, but we'll find a place for you to argue it with me.
Some phone booth.
Dancers are eager to correct this problem. They are. They're not dumb. First, they must find callers who are willing to stop the charades. Dancers want us to honestly help them become better dancers instead of continuing to lull them into a false sense of security by teaching higher level or experimental calls instead of teaching them things that they really need to know. Some of you may think I'm speaking of extended applications. I am, to a certain degree, but I feel this is the area that most callers shy away from simply because they do not understand it. They're scared of it. It intimidates them. They go home, they try it with their club, you know, just like Vernon was saying. You know, you're not going to like this, but CALLERLAB said we were supposed to work on this, so we're going to do it. Left square through 4, left relay the deucey. The whole floor crashes and burns. He looks at the floor and he says, how'd you like that? They said, I didn't like it. He says, I didn't either. And let's never do it again. That's just about as far as it goes most times. What I'm really talking about, I'm not talking about any far-out version of DBD or APD. It's not what we're talking about. What I'm really talking about is such simple things as left square through, cross runs, hordes of other calls, rotating the box and use plain vanilla. You know what I mean by that? A routine, let's say pass the ocean, swing through, spin the top, right and left through. We've probably all called that 100 times. Would you agree with that? Pass the ocean, swing through, spin the top, right and left through. Where do we start that routine from? Lines of 4, correct? All right. Rotate the box to a box and do the same routine. It looks totally different to the dancer. I've used that at workshops, at plus weekends, plus dances. And I call it first to see if they can do it, you know, and they stumble around. They can't do it because they're so used to doing it from a line. And so I do this routine, and they're supposed to come back out to a box. Guess where they are? They've shifted it around because they thought they made a mistake. They're in a line. That's how many times they've done that routine that way. And just by rotating the box, if you do a right and left through Dixie style to a wave and whatever else you do there, trade the wave probably. I like cross runs myself better. But whatever you do, rotate the box and do it from there. It's a whole new feeling for them. And you're going to come out with a little variety, and that's still standard application. Basically, the choreography is unlimited and does not require we venture into any weird or off-the-wall choreography. An example of a poor workshop is one that I've used many times. You're really getting sick of hearing this one, aren't you?
I love it.
Do you? All right. A couple years ago, I was doing a festival with several high-profile callers on staff. All but one was presenting their usual fun and entertaining and educational basic and mainstream workshop. Except this one individual. He was still using the nostalgic theory of teaching some off-the-wall choreography. This caller and I shared an hour workshop. He went first and tried to get the floor through Peel the Top from T-Bones. I watched him sink and die a slow death for 45 minutes of our allotted 60. He would not give up, and the floor was truly frustrated. And I remember his comment when he left the stage. He said, boy, these guys can't dance worth a damn. I said under my breath, what arrogance and what stupidity. Peel the Top from T-Bones is a very clever call, but requires much more presentation skill than was afforded this particular individual. He did himself no favors. He lost big time. If he would have come up on the stage and called some nice plus material and worked some basic mainstream calls in a little different way and did his 30 minutes and got off the stage, the dancers would have liked him, and I would have too. The dancers really do enjoy practicing calls they need work on, and in many cases, flat don't know. This is a simple case of poor caller judgment. He, like many callers, feel if they work on the basic mainstream calls at a plus workshop or a dance, the dancers won't like it and will feel that they're being belittled, and that's just not true. I'm here to tell you, that's just not true. It's a cop-out. Certainly ain't true. A big cop-out, and I hear it all the time. Big cop-out. What is true is the fact that to be able to present and pull off such a workshop takes a little bit of skill. Now, this skill is not easily taught, but can surely be learned. What we're talking about is the true art of calling. And because of all the fancy calls that we've got thrown at us over the past 20 years, we're losing. That valuable art of calling is going away. We all see it year after year after year. Callers, and it's not really the caller's fault, it's a sign of the times. I was talking to a guy in the hallway, and he asked me, he said, Jerry, why do you keep harping on us using the basic calls so much? He said, I've called for 45 years. You're not going to change a thing I do. And I said, but don't you understand that it makes you a better caller when you try to do that? Try to use them, and you practice it, and you work on your presentation skills and all this. And he said, hell no, I don't need that. I have relay the deucey and load the boat. This is sad. And what am I supposed to say to this guy but other than yoy, 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 yoy. Yoy, 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 yoy. Anyway, When basic mainstream material is presented correctly to plus dancers, they'll thank you for it, I'll guarantee you. And they'll become a more comfortable dancer, and they'll come back time and again and tell you how much they appreciate your efforts. All we are talking about really is calling and using all the calls on the basic list and all the calls on the mainstream list. Even if you're calling a plus dance or an advanced dance or a C1 dance, call them, use them, and try to use them all. Everywhere I go, dancers simply do not know all the calls on the basic or the mainstream list, even from standard applications. And there's always something to work on with smoothness and timing. And that kind of goes with it. You know, when I'm doing a workshop, I want to workshop a half a dozen little different basics and mainstream calls. And I want to hook them all together, and I want them to create the ultimate dancing experience using those tools that I just created for myself. And once I do that, the dancers can feel it. It feels good to them. They haven't used, and once you get them to dancing it and dancing it smoothly, that's the best you can be. You've really done your job working that floor. Because when they're dancing and the wind is their face and they're succeeding, guess what they're having? You bet. I have absolutely no chance of ever running out of something to workshop. Not with this theory. There's always something, and it doesn't have to be hard. I guess you could say that I, along with a few others, have made a career out of calling, using, workshopping, and teaching a variety of calls and variations of calls that are being ignored by many callers today. When dancers know relay the deucey but not 8-chain 4, or spin chain and exchange the gears but not spin chain the gears, or even spin chain through for that matter, it's obvious to me, and it should be obvious to everyone in this room, that we have a serious problem in this country. We can look at several examples of these type calls that we're talking about and the variations of them when the presentations are over, and if time allows. I'm almost done, I promise. I hope we can find a way to show this to many callers who today are not participating in any form of continuing education. I've called all over this world, and I've called for 30 years, and I still go looking for caller education. That is just a built-in ritual of mine. It never quits. And when callers don't do that, you can bank on them just slowly getting out, you know. They're on their way out the door. It's an ever-changing world we have in front of us, and things we were doing 30 years ago, some of them will still work pretty good. But some of them may have to go to the wayside as well. All of us can help fight this battle by practicing and presenting this type workshop. You will know if you did a good job. The dancers will be smiling from ear to ear because they were doing something new, even though they already knew or thought they knew the calls. The dancers must come away feeling a sense of accomplishment, feeling they really learned something, and a feeling they have been entertained and well danced. These are the qualities of a successful workshop. It's possible to come close to creating the same type of atmosphere by using experimental calls or calls from higher programs. My question is, and you've heard me say it before, how many Relay Your Wingdings can you call, plain vanilla, before the dancers are bored to tears? You work like crazy to teach Peel the Top from T-Bones to plus dancers. For what? Where's the reward? The feeling of accomplishment. I just don't get it. Personally, I would rather teach dancers to spin the top without having to swing through first. It does not take as much time to teach, and I can expand on it without it getting too difficult. Try and expand on Peel the Top from T-Bones and see what happens. If we learn to use all the calls on the basic mainstream list and learn to use some variations of standard applications and a little extended application for variety, I assure you even the best dancers won't become bored. When executed properly, the whole floor will be equalized and dancing smoothly your entire workshop session. Every caller in this room can learn how to present a workshop exactly like this. It does take a little work, but I want you to know it's well worth it. The rewards are there for you and the dancers. It will make a better caller out of anyone that applies this technique. The first thing we must begin to see happen is all callers becoming more familiar with the basic calls and in turn the mainstream calls. Ladies and gentlemen, the basic list is our ace in the hole. It's our future. Ladies and gentlemen, the basic list is our ace in the hole. It is our future. There's so much more than choreography that makes up a successful workshop. Vernon touched on just a little bit of it, and I've touched on a little bit of it, and there's a lot more. I wish we had time to go over all of them more in depth and discuss some of these things, but we don't. Just remember to keep a workshop fun and lighthearted, and whatever you teach, make sure the entire floor really dances it and dances it smoothly. When dancers succeed with competence and smoothness, we as callers are providing the most enjoyment to be found in our great recreation, modern Western square dancing. I want to thank you all for attending this session, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Cindy, please speak into the portable mic.
Okay, it's fine. Now it's not. Okay.
I just want to make sure that I can get this one hot.
We can take questions first if you want, and then we can go through.
We got two ways we can go with this, and I want it to be your option. You've heard a lot of information from the selling aspects of just the art of selling, and you've heard a lot of information concerning what it is that we're selling when we do a workshop. We can take a look at some choreography at this point, if that's what you'd like to do, or we could answer some questions that you have while they're fresh in your mind. If you have a question, would you raise your hand so that Cindy can move the portable mic over to you? It looks like they want to see what you mean, Jerry. We got a question right here. Let's bring the microphone up here. Cindy has the microphone, and please, when you speak into the microphone, your name and where you're from.
Ron Marcus from Tucson, Arizona. I'd like to have Vernon no? All right, well, I don't want to have you do that then. I'll just expand a little bit on how you develop, what skills might be necessary to develop this relationship selling that you were talking about. It seems like that would be useful throughout the square dance activity.
It almost definitely the biggest thing that you've got to develop is your fear of walking up to somebody that you might not particularly know very well and talking to them. You've got to get rid of the barrier. You've got to get rid of and this is another barrier right here, this table. That's why I stood up. I hate this. I've called it dances where you stand behind this wall. You're not a part of the people. Get out from behind the wall and become a part of the people. Get down and meet them. Talk to them. And it does nothing except going over and doing it over and over and time again. I've seen lots of callers, and one of the callers that I've seen do the best job of it is Tony Oxendine. When he's ever doing a dance or a workshop, I've noticed that whenever he gets through calling, he'll go down and start meeting people and talking to them and shaking hands and glad handing. And then when it's time to call again, wherever he stopped, he'll come back and do his next tip, and then he'll go back to the same spot because people generally congregate back to the same area. And then he'll go, by the time the night's over with, he'll go all the way around the room. And every time he's doing that, he's doing nothing but building relationships. And that helps you get over your fear, and a lot of us have a fear. I had a terrible fear. Scared me to death. I didn't like doing that. I would have never been able to do this type of thing because I don't know you people. For most of you. And that's one thing you've got to do. You've got to do it over and over and make yourself go out and do that. And not just go to the people that you know. Go to the people that you're comfortable with. That's one of the things as a salesman that I fall into a trap with. If I was making $1 million a year selling to the same people all the time, I would never have to worry about it because they know me. They know my dog and pony act. They know what I'm going to sell to them. But I've got to go out and meet new customers and get them to buy from me also. And it just takes making yourself constantly go over and doing it, and that's the best way you can do it.
Applying this to the topic we have on hand about how to sell a workshop is the realization when you're working with your own club, for instance, when it is time for your group to experience the workshop, to participate in the workshop experience. Now, there are some automatic things that we do. For instance, we graduate a class, and what's the next step after that? In many cases, we begin to workshop the class and the club together to try to bring both of those groups together into a homogeneous dance group. I mean, so that's one triggering event for a workshop, but there can be others that trigger the need for a workshop. And when that need arises, then we have to put to use some of the techniques that that Vernon has described to sell this idea to the club. Because no, not everybody is going to be aware of the fact that you just realized they need to workshop. And that's the point of selling. You have to somehow find a way to communicate with your dancers that they are in need. They're in need of what Jerry said. You just called a fan the top from Facing Couples and lost about half of your club. It's not their fault. You can't blame it on them. You called something that you haven't normally called in a while, and dancers can only be expected to know readily what they dance normally and regularly. And so this triggers in your mind a chance to workshop. It might not be the appropriate time to workshop just when you called it. You think about these things. And perhaps it's time not only to look at Fan the Top from Facing Couples, what about Spin the Top from Facing Couples? Something of this nature. And so you see that the need begins to grow in your own mind. When that happens, it's time for you to find a way to convince your dancers so that they will be on your side and be receptive to this workshop. And that's a critical aspect of running a workshop. Any other questions before we have a mic right here? Go ahead, please. Name? Name?
Ron Counts, Colorado Springs. I am a salesman. I sell insurance to the old folks. And to expand on what Vernon said and this comment over here, it might help a little bit about how to talk to people. People don't care how much you know until they feel how much you care. They know how much you care about them. And asking questions to get them to open up to you is the key to things. And once you start doing that, you can't find the turn-off switch on them. Thank you.
That's great. That's a great point. Yes. Thank you, Ron. Any other comments? Suggestions? Questions? Some of you came in here predisposed to hear a particular aspect of how to sell a workshop. If you haven't heard it yet, put your hand in the air, take the microphone, and say, I'd like to know about. Wow. Whew. Talk about a bullseye. Oh, there they come now. All right, right over here. And then we'll take Mr. Cooley down the end.
My name's Clay Goss. I'm from Newark, Delaware. I guess I'd like to see how one of you gentlemen might take a particular thing you're going to call and how you put that together into a complete workshop in little snippets.
Okay. We have time and we intend to do that. Okay, Clay? And Lawrence?
Lawrence Kuhle from Germany. I'd like to know, there's two parts of a caller. One is that you can learn, that's the science. You read a book, everything is written in there. But I think there's another part that is the art. And it goes along with what you said, is you are a salesman, but I'm not. So how can you make me a salesman? Can I learn it? Where can I learn it? Where do you teach? Can you teach me the art of selling?
That's a great question. Vernon?
You are a salesman. Okay? If you're a square dance caller or a round dance cure or whatever, you are a salesman. The first time you pick up a microphone, you are a salesman. We don't realize that we're salesmen. Like I said, we envision salespeople as, do you want to buy this? Is this what I've got? And it costs this much and you need to buy it because they really do this type of thing. But when you're being a salesman, the type of salesman that we all are, do you not know your people? Do you not talk to them? Did you have a good day at work today? Did you have a nice day? What kind of day did you have? How's your wife doing? And she was sick last week. That's all a part of the biggest type of selling that we do. We're showing that we care. Remember, we have the same customers over and over and over again. You don't realize that you are a salesman, but you are a salesman. And what you need to do is when you start doing these type of things and start getting the feedback and you go, gee, I didn't know you could do that, then expand upon it. Make sure you don't do it to just the people that you know. Go to the people that you don't know and ask them, how are you doing? Where are y'all from? Especially last names. Last names are a great way to start. You go up and you say, if you were here in America, Lawrence, and I'm using you as an example, and you told me you lived in Poolville, Texas, and your name was Lawrence Cooley, I would recognize that's not a Texican name. And I would ask you, your last name is Cooley. Is that a what kind of name was that? And you would tell me it was German. And I would say, well, where is your family heritage? A lot of names in languages mean something. Native American names mean things, and so you could ask that. When you're doing that type of thing, you're building the relationships that I'm talking about, and you're selling your product, which is not your workshop, which is not your material, but which is yourself. And whether you realize it or not, you're doing it. Just expand upon it and go further with it.
The thing is how it comes that you may sell more cars than I can sell.
Well,
I want to sell the same. I want to sell 10 cars instead of only 2.
Okay.
Well, I sell 2 cars, but I want to.
I think you have to separate the goals and objectives of selling from the technique or the art of selling, which is that's 2 separate questions you're asking. In my mind, as a real estate sales broker, I can tell you that in my mind, the way I view selling, it's the art of successful communication. It's ongoing. And selling begins with the communication, which may not necessarily entail product description. This is what Vernon was trying to say. The establishment of a relationship, a personal relationship, that is not necessarily tied to the product. The callers that we work with, that I see, working in festivals and that type of thing, who complete their tips, put the microphone down, walk off the stage, and go out a door to smoke a cigarette, are giving up the most valuable asset that they have. You're not going to communicate with anybody except the bushes and the hedgehogs out there. And they're not buying a thing from you. The guy who is successful, and we learned this a long time ago, I learned it from Jerry Helt, when the first time I ever saw him call in New England, where he got off the stage with a jar of hard candies, wrapped candies, and he went around and offered everybody in that hall a piece of hard candy. Got to know their names, and once in doing that, in doing their names, he then performed the most magnificent piece of communication I ever saw. In the middle of the next tip, it was, "John, how you doing over there? Your wife Pat, she's okay? All right," while he's calling. Now, you talk about communication. This man has just bonded to that entire floor. And once you've established that kind of relationship, I think you could probably, I'm sure you could probably sell snowballs to an Eskimo. All right? Yeah. Bring the mic over here to our friend Skip. And we're going to leave enough time for some choreographic examples of the, as you say, the snippets of how we put a workshop together. Skip?
I'm Skip Brown from Portland, Maine, and if I listen correctly, I think you're saying sell yourself and the product will go along with it. Is that pretty much correct?
I think so. I believe that's true. Anybody have any questions on the selling aspect? How do you do it? Well, I'll tell you right now, when I met this young man, I think I can call you young. Oh, you're right. When I met Vernon in Waco, Texas, he was very shy and withdrawn. I distinctly remember that. I don't see a shy, withdrawn individual up here today. I did see somebody who walked perilously close to the edge of the platform, and my major concern was, how are we going to fill all the dead air time on the tape when he goes off the edge of that platform? And at any rate, do we have...
Yeah,
Cindy, yes, please. Name, please.
Cindy Hawley, East Long Meadow. I think what you're saying really is you're talking about the activity as being fun and asking the dancers to be social with each other. And all we're doing is taking that one step further and being social with them. And that social ability is really what the activity's all about. That puts the fun back in. And if we don't start it, they're not going to do it.
Exactly right. I agree with that 100%. Once you've reached a point now where you realize that a workshop is required, and that could be purely subjective. It's your determination. As I said before, it could be triggered by an event while you're calling, or it could be triggered by another circumstance, such a graduating class that has to now be assimilated into the club, which hopefully you've already worked that problem anyway by having the club and the class dance together prior to graduation or whatever. But now you've reached a point where a workshop in your mind is necessary, and you have utilized your personality and whatever other personal techniques you have, and you go around and you speak with your dancers. Did you see that fan the top we just did? Do you have any trouble with that? Well, we didn't get that. You know, it must have been my fault. I thought I taught you how to fan the top, and I honestly believe that, you know, if you couldn't do it, the teacher's responsible. What do you think? Should we work that? And most of the time you'll get yes. And furthermore, it'll be a very positive yes, a very enthusiastic yes. And you do this several times with different people in your group, and you're establishing now the foundation at which we can take our next segment. Let's take a look at the workshop. Not necessarily fan the top. I know Jerry had some other material, but let's just say now that we've sold the workshop, is that on there too? Now that we've sold the workshop, let's present it. And here's Jerry's techniques.
Knee square.
Okay, so there won't be too much dead air on the tape. I'll just do some chit-chatting while we're assembling our square together. And, golly, I get a cute gal like that down in front of my square. I forget what the heck I'm workshopping. I'll tell you right now.
All aboard?
Here we have one more couple, and we're all set now. Here's our square.
Early in the game, I want to get him to, Yellow Rock. Yeah. How's your corner feel, huh? I want to get him doing two things. I want him to know that we're going to dance smooth, and that I want to give him time to do the calls. And let's take a look at what I'm talking about there. Forward and back is a workshop call of mine everywhere I go, because I want them to do it. And if they don't do it, I'm going to ask them to do it. I want to workshop it, especially at a workshop, even at a dance most of the time. Heads pair off, face your corner, and then slide through and give me a line of 4. How about that? Go forward and back. Right and left through. A lot of times they won't do it. You know why they won't do it, don't you? They don't think they have time, because I hear too many callers just say, go forward and back, right and left through. I hear it all the time. Forward and back, square through 4, drives me nuts. Pass the ocean. Girl run around a boy. Ferris wheel. Pass through. And all I did was half sashay him, because I want to do I would probably be working slide through at this workshop as well. It's a great place to teach slide through. And I usually just call it slide through. And most of them aren't going to know that they turn right and left, so they're going to be facing in. And then I'll say, y'all facing out now. And they'll turn around. And they won't know why yet. And then I'll call forward and back. And they think, well, my gosh, how do you do that? And it's fun. I'll say, go forward, and when you come back again, do a wheel and deal. Just to get them with the body flow. Centers pass through. Star through. Pass the ocean. Now, there's a reason why most callers won't call scoot back from a boy and a girl going in. Because it breaks the floor down a lot. But the reason it does is because they don't present it right. If they do it swing through, scoot back, that's hard for dancers. Now, these guys are going to do it because they're experts. But a floor of dancers, mainstream dancers, plus dancers, they're not going to do it for you. But they will do this, swing through, balance, straight ahead, scoot back. They did it because of the forward motion up and back, and they couldn't miss it. So I get my success rate way high by using those little tricks like that. And all it took was a balance, plus it helped me smooth out my dancers. And they're really having fun. Now I can exploit balance. I put it to singing calls and balance and have fun with it, and they will. They'll really balance for you. And it's things we called a long time ago, but we've got away from lately because of choreography. Let's have the boy run around a girl. Maybe I've worked those two calls now. Slide through, forward and back, balance. I got them doing scoot back. I mean, you should be able to do all that in a real short amount of time. I mean, that's not even one of my workshop tips yet. That's just getting them warmed up. And they're going, holy cow. This guy's going to make me think. He's going to make me work. He's really learning. He's teaching me something. I don't get to do this at home. So then we'll go on to maybe make sure they can do Ferris wheels out of left-handed lines like this, because I love wheel around. It's just an awesome call. And plain vanilla, you can insert it into so many places. It's just a neat call. Ferris wheel. And the center's wheel around. Right into a flutter wheel. Veer left. Ferris wheel. Center's reverse flutter. And then I love to use veers. Center's veer right and veer left and flutter wheel. Okay, I take back what I said. A fan the top, don't do it. A fan the top gets really blowed a lot of times because of presentation again. A lot of callers call pass the ocean, fan the top. It sounds good, but it's really overkill for the girls. Pass the ocean. They've already went a quarter. Now I'm going to ask them to go another 3/4, so all they've done is spin a full turn, fan the top. There's better ways to present fan the top than that. But most callers don't really go out and try to find it. And if you have found it and found a lot of these things, please pass them on to other callers. And I know that's hard to do. Callers fight you on that, don't they? When you try to help them, for those of you that are using these techniques. But don't give up. Work with the willing. There's always going to be people willing. Sometimes they won't be. Just drop it off and let them read it maybe, or, whatever. Be nonchalant about it. If they can't really take, hearing it from you all in one chunk. Swing through. Another great call is split circulate. The only place we can split circulate from anymore around the country is with the boy looking in and the girl looking out. So this is a great place to workshop split circulate. And all you got to do while you're calling, identify each box and make sure you stay in it. They're going to do it for you. Sometimes, depending on the crowd, I'll call it cold turkey just to see what I get. If I break them down, I'll pick them right back up and then go show it to them. So you can work it either way. You can help them first, or you can hit them cold turkey. And there's something to be said about both of those, because if you hit them right away with it, it's one entertainment value. If you do it the other way with the total success rate all the time, that's something different. And that depends on your crowds. Well, if you got a good floor or a weak floor, split circulate. Boys trade, girls trade, centers trade, girls trade, reverse flutter. It's those kind of combinations, that comes out of nowhere, and it makes the dancer think. But it was plain vanilla, is all that was. That's using just trades and runs. Let's do another one like that one. Let me don't get ahead of myself. Was there anything else on veers? Let me see. Another good call is, there's just so much. I'm trying to do it in such a hurry. A turn through is a call that dancers don't know. They just don't know it. I don't know if callers just aren't teaching it. I don't know what the deal is, but everywhere I go, they sure can't do it. Turn through. Tag the line. Face in. Box the net to a fan the top. Boys left 3/4, girls up. If you do the box the net, that's a nice technique to get you into that fan the top from either way then. And it's a lot better than pass the ocean because you're not spinning the centers a full turn, see? I love recycles too. I don't use them. This is a hard call for dancers, but it's in my workshop repertoire. I might not get it in the first tip or the second tip, and I might not use it at all. But at some point in time, you can bet I'm going to recycle, and I'm going to teach them. But you know what? Before I do that, I want to give them the components of the call. Girls cross fold. Touch a quarter. Boy run around a girl. I just helped them. We just started prepping them for this recycle. Pass the ocean. Oh, let's balance. It's fun. You bet it is. Scoot back for me. Boys trade. Girls, I want you to cross fold. I want to do it again. I want to make sure. Girls, that's what you're going to do when I say recycle next time now, okay? Touch a quarter. Boy run around a girl. Now they're tired of dancing with these people. Let's get them over somewhere else. Pass through and bend the line, okay? It's about time for that. I prepped them with one group of people. I'm going to present the call with another set of people. Pass the ocean. Swing through. All right, boys, you're going to fold and follow her, but don't you dare get ahead of her. Girls, don't you let him either. Just think cross fold, girls. Recycle. Fold and follow her, boys. Don't you get ahead of her. Stay back here. Good. Slide through. Boys, remember, you turn right, girls left. Once you got everybody doing that, you've got so many tools in your arsenal now. You are loaded. You are absolutely loaded with choreography to interchange in amongst all the other stuff that you normally do. Go forward and back. Bend the lines. Oh, let's see what else we got. A spin the top is another great workshop call from a normal setup like this. Cross runs was another great. That's good too. Pass the ocean. I mean, I don't think we need a lot of the calls that we've got. If we just go through and experiment with them, we don't need trade the wave. I asked somebody, why do we need trade the wave? And he said, because I like to say, take a peek. And I said, well, then say, take a peek, and everybody cross-run. Take a peek. Everybody cross-run. Why do we need trade the wave when we already have that call available to us? That's just confusing. And it compounds to our problem of callers using other calls and higher-level calls instead of using the basic calls that we have. Once again, you could go as far as you want. If you got a good floor, you maybe just work split circulate. Now you just work cross run. Now stack a couple things that you've done together. Look at your left hand waves. Now look at each left hand box. Each box, split circulate. Beautiful. Left swing through. Boys trade. Partner trade. I like to get back normal as soon as I can. You know, anytime you do anything that's a little shaky for them, that when they're learning, get them in and out of it quick. Don't leave them hung out there. So many times I see callers that have 5 squares on the floor and 3 of them are standing watching him call most of the time. Pick them up. You know, get them going if they break down. Breaking down is no big deal. I think callers are scared to break the floor down sometimes, you know, and you can't be, because if you're doing a workshop, I figure if they don't break down a couple times, they're not learning much. But they'll only break down. If they do, it'll only be for a couple seconds. I'll guarantee you. I'll have them in line so quick, or resolve the square so quick, and pick them right back up and show them again, and they're not going to break down the second time on me, because I'm going to help them and make sure of it. Pass the ocean again. Everybody cross run. It's just a great call. And you can isolate people. You know, we only use cross run with the centers. And usually it's after a Dixie style. Boys cross run. That's when don't do it. I don't want you to do it. Well, go ahead and do it. Why don't we call it with the boy on the end of the wave? We know where he just came from, don't we? Well, if we call it, guess where he's going? He's going right back in there to that same Dixie style wave you had. Boys cross run. Girls slide apart. They're just not used to dancing it, see? Dancers are not used to that type of choreography. Then right into a left swing through. And now the boys got the habit of doing that cross run. I'm going to do it from this way. Boys cross run and run. It's so cool. And you get them weaving and winding in and out around these different patterns. Couple circulate. Oh, let's see what we got here. I'll show you one more. Are we running out of time? We got to quit at 1:45? I don't know who started with, oh yeah, I remember now. Bend the line. Pass the ocean. Just to get you this where I want you real quick. Explode the wave. Wheel and deal. The center's flutter wheel. And reverse wheel around. Cool. Cool. That was it. All right. Touch a quarter. I set this up because I know where it starts. If you want to know where it starts, if you had the heads lead to the left and touch a quarter, that's where we are right now. If you wonder, if you're taking notes. If you had the heads lead to the left and touch a quarter, follow your neighbor and spread. And balance. And just with runs, you can really have a lot of fun. This is a nice routine. Boys run, boys trade. I've already prepped this, by the way. I've already done a lot of these boys runs, boys trades, boys circulate type things. And then this is the get out for it. Boys run, boys circulate, girls circulate, swing through, get everybody moving again. Girls run, girls trade, girls run, girls circulate, boys circulate, grand right and left. Square your sets. I mean, it looks like commotion out there. It comes out of nowhere, see? But it's you want to do it one more time? Did everybody get it? It's coming so fast. I mean, I want you to see the mechanics of it. Everybody see it? All right. Another one. I'm famous for, if I hear somebody use something, I want to take what I heard them use, and I want to put my own twist on it. Most of the times I hear callers call without a purpose. You know, they'll just call. They might call some good stuff. They might say, separate round 3. Oh, that was clever. Where are you going with it? No, nowhere. I just wanted to separate, go around 3. I ain't going to no particular place with it. Well, my mind don't work like that. If I'm going to do it, if I'm going to use that thing, I want a crescendo for the show. Yeah, I want to get in there and do some preparation for them. Well, if I was going to use that, which I decided to put it in my repertoire years ago, I sat down with my dolls and I wrote out some resolutions for separate round 3. And you have to practice it. Let's just go through a practice session on that just to make sure. Head star through. The outside squeeze in. Pass through. Wheel and deal. Where are you girls going? Touch a quarter, girls. Girls walk and dodge. Now here comes my practice session for them. Because when I do the get out, I don't want them to screw it up. I want them to be 100% successful. For them to do that, I'm just going to prepare them, and they don't know that they don't know what I'm doing. They don't know that I'm setting them up for the kill. Girls separate round 3. Most of the time they're going to stop right here because they counted that girl like a load the boat. So you have to say, girls, you're not finished. Pass through, girls. Go around the third boy and squeeze in between the boys and make lines. Very good, girls. Pass through. Tag the line. Cloverleaf. Now I've practiced the girls, okay? Now I'm going to come back. Zoom. What am I doing now? I'm going to practice the boys, right? Boys touch a quarter. Boys walk and dodge. Boys separate. Round 3. You're only counting the girls, guys. Keep going. Pass through. Round the third girl. Squeeze in. Long way, ain't it? Cool. All right. And I might do that a couple of times depending on how smart they are. All right? I was just being silly. I know it. Okay, so let's say that I practice them enough and I think they're smart enough to get the routine, the get out. Then I got to set it up, which is all it is I start from a stirred bucket at home. So if everybody wants to just go home and stir the bucket, that's fine with me. Square your set. I mean, I could get you there, but it'd be a lot easier to just go home and stir the bucket. Is that where you started? Now stir the bucket. Yeah, but I'll come around this. I mean, I won't. You can just actually, if you got to stir the bucket, you can stir the bucket and start from here. I do it on the fly. I'll catch it coming around and stir the bucket. And I'll even make sure that they have their opposite girl because the call starts with the ladies chained. Go ahead, girls. But I might have them in two-phase lines or something, and I see their opposite girl and pass through, wheel and deal, center sweep a quarter, and boom, here I am. I can see that my bucket is stirred and everybody has their opposite girl. Then start the routine. Heads, square, new heads, square through 3. Then separate, go around 3. Centers do a right and left through. Centers do a half sachet. The ends face in. And you're home. Okay? Want to see that again? So, here's here's just to add to, I got to show you my method of madness here. If I wanted to do that and resolve with a stirred bucket, where would I start? One more position around the corner, wouldn't I? All right, stir it half and chain the ladies. Half, stir it half, and chain the ladies. Now I do the same routine, and I'm going to be stirred for a singing call. The new head, square through 3. Separate, round 3. Centers, go right all the way through. Centers do a half sachet. Get around them, squeeze in, ends face in. And you're stirred. All right. Before we run out of time, I want to give some to my counterparts here. But if anybody has any questions of the things we're working on, this is the kind of stuff that we do. It's not hard. It's 100% in presentation skills. A lot of callers are under the misconception that extended application, you should be able to take something that's very simple and see how hard you can make it. A professional caller and a caller that knows what he's doing realizes that's not it. It's taking something that's hard and making it into something simple so the dancers can enjoy it and have fun. And when they succeed, you succeed. And I think our activity will succeed better this way than with more calls plain vanilla. Thank you all very much.
Okay, let's see. Do we have any questions before we... Yes, we do have a question right up here, Cindy. And while we're waiting for the microphone to come around, I want to first of all express thanks to you all for being here. Express thanks to the Square that took their time to come up and walk through the material that they really wanted to be in their chair writing down. And to thank my colleagues, Vernon Jones from Hooterville, Texas. Cool. And, of course, Mr. Jerry Story from Mission, Texas. Please don't leave just yet. We have a question on a wrap-up, name and location.
Randy Stevenson, Chickasha, Oklahoma. Just out of curiosity, and all it takes is a yes or no, as late as we're getting. Would you rather see them doing something like what you just went through there, or would you start, for instance, say heads do a left square through and go left-handed through the same vanilla stuff that to get them used to it?
There's so much. Like I say, left square through is just in my repertoire. Even the dancers in the valley, they're not terrific dancers or by any stretch of the imagination. They're average dancers for around the country. But I call left stuff for them. I call a lot of this stuff. It's just in how big a dose do I administer it. Depends. If I'm in Europe, I administer large doses of it. For the people in the valley, I administer little doses of it. But you can bet that I'm going to call it for them, and I'm going to help them with it, and they're going to get through it. I was talking with a caller just here this week, and he said to me, he's been calling 40 years, he said, Jerry, why do you call this left-handed stuff and this half-sashayed stuff, and the floor gets through it, and I try it, and the floor breaks down, and they're frustrated. And I said, because you haven't done your homework. You don't know where they're going to end up. And he looked at me like, you weren't supposed to tell me that. You were supposed to lie. And I'm not that way. I'm going to tell you how the cow ate the cabbage. You can be mad at me if you want. I don't really care. I like all of you, but, I'm going to tell you how it is. And I explained to him. He said, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, I'll give you an example. He said, all I know is routines. I said, good. Take your routines that you know. Let's say head square through 4, swing through, boy run, Ferris wheel, star through. Okay? We all know that puts you back home, right? Well, then why not it is not hard. Teach the dancers to left square through 4, left swing through, girl run, Ferris wheel, center star through. Guess where you're at? You're home. So, yes, to answer your question, I apply left and half sachet, but like I say, it depends on the group, depends on how good they are, and how much I have to insert into my program. Another good example of, just think of all the routines that you do that you already have memorized from right-hand setup. I like to dance. If we dance right-handed all the time, we only got one call that spins us the other way, and that's reverse flutter wheel, But we need like left-hand two-faced lines to take us counterclockwise, and then go back to the right, and it makes for very, very smooth and enjoyable dancing. If you all know the conversion from a box 1-4 spin chain through, girls circulate twice, boy run, bend the line. That's one of the basic things we learn, when we start calling. That's a conversion from a box 1-4 to 1P2P. Use the same thing. If you can have the head square through 4, spin chain through, girls circulate twice, boy run, bend the line, and you got a 1P2P line. The common sense tells you that if you did a left square through 4, a left spin chain through, the boys circulate twice, the girl run around a boy and bend the line, logic would tell you. You have to have the same formation. It's a 1P2P line. All of them are the same. Left-handed, you should know, if you know where they end right-handed, you know where they end left-handed then.
Okay, thanks again, everybody. We're going to end the session right now. Thank you. If you have any more questions, come up and ask us individually. Thank you very much.
Super good job.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yep.
All right.
Good show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. Good salesman.
Thank you.
Kipper?
I'm not touching. No,
Don't touch it.
Thank
you.
Very good, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Appreciate y'all.
Is your stomach upset?
No, I'm okay. It's just all
No. Then get yourself tons of orange juice.
Appreciate y'all.
Really, because it will work.
I might be affected.
Thank you anyway.
I'll get anyways.
Enjoy. Appreciate it. Thank you much.
You did a good job, Cindy.
The best. Out of all, Cindy done the best.
She did.
Done the bestest.
She never made a mistake all the time.
Yeah.
Even if I
That's
make a
it.
mistake, I'm still the best.
Specialized. I appreciate it. I'm not actually going to go. I've got this full. You guys can all the fall.
Yeah.
I want to be bigger.
Enjoyed it, Kip.
Thank you. Let me understand what that's kind of very interesting.
I think it's not. I think it's great. If I had that program, I would show them more basic and mainstream call. I'll guarantee you they can't dance every call on that basic or mainstream list. But here we are teaching class and doing weird crossfires and all that. I don't think we need that. I think we should go right back down to the trenches and really make them earn the status of a plus dancer. They should earn the status of an advanced dancer. We got factions in here running around.